So, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of cancer was it?
It was with liver cancer.
Liver cancer.
Yes. So I started off with, I think in 2016, they removed my colon. And they said, oh yeah, we found a tumor, but it was nothing. And me not knowing what cancer was,
Yeah.
I didn't know that, hey, I should keep up with it. I'm young, I'm 34 years old, 35 years old.
Yeah.
I'm good. Well, I think in 2019, 20,
Yeah.
I didn't feel good. And I went in and the lady was like, hey, you need to see an oncologist. I didn't even know what that was.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Who?
Yeah, I said, all right, I got you. And so I ignored it.
Yeah.
And I got sick again. I went back to the hospital. And the lady said, hey, man, did they tell you? And I was like, no. She was like, you got liver cancer. Right, this around COVID time.
Wait, is that how it's delivered?
That's how they delivered it.
Oh
and
my gosh.
It's COVID time. They have plastic in between us. So everybody in the room, you can basically hear everybody issue. But when she said it, you could see everybody looking through the plastic, looking around.
Because, like, how do you say that so nonchalant?
Yeah, she was like, hey, man, did they tell you you have liver cancer?
Wow.
She said, you need to see an oncologist. So I Googled oncologist, that's
to figure out what.
I was like, and that's all cancer. I was like, oh, this is real. So I came home, told the family, and at first, we was like, oh, we'll just figure it out. And so when I went in and got the scan, it seemed normal until I went to have surgery. When I had surgery is when they realized it was worse than what it was. Wow. So when they went to do surgery, when I woke up, he was like, hey man, it's worse than we thought. You need chemo treatment, and it's like it spread. I think it was my stomach, liver, and diaphragm. He said he couldn't do the surgery, but they was able to remove the mass off my liver. Yeah. And like that part, and then so I did chemo treatment for 8 hours. I basically had a bag I packed, and I would go to treatment from 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, all day. And then I had a pump I had to wear for 3 days after that. Just pump chemo, so it went from being healthy to feeling sick all the time, and then being told to prepare. That's the conversation in the beginning. He was like, hey man, I need you to prepare. He said, this, we don't know if this will work. And so then trying to tell your kids that, trying to tell your family that, and trying to still live a normal life, not knowing if you're gonna live long enough to live one. And you're still trying to maintain that father and husband, that figure, without feeling too weak. And then the kids looking at you weird. The whole house was eerie. Yeah. For a while. It was very eerie. And so I started holistic things. Okay. I started doing holistic things that I still do now. And I think that's when you realize that we're not in control. Yeah. And when you take a step back, and sometimes, they say, sometimes God just wants you to listen. Yeah, yeah. It was that moment where that was my time to listen, because I was somebody that always moved. Yeah. And I had no choice but to sit. And I think it was that moment where a lot of things that normally wouldn't have been revealed, because I was moving so much, it was almost like God saying, I need you to sit down, take a break, and just enjoy what I have in front of you. So the very simple things that I ignored, I noticed. I noticed the birds. I heard them. I saw the trees, the sunrise, the moon, like things I didn't pay attention to, the simple things that we neglect because we're so busy with our life. I was able to, it was more enhanced. So I would go outside and sit outside and just listen to the birds. And then it's at that moment where I figured out, so I had that aha moment where I was like, okay, I can't do this to myself and my kids and my family. I gotta fight this. And so I started on the week I felt well, I would build things. And so I would go outside and I built a whole outdoor kitchen from scratch. And it was almost like me giving myself life. That's awesome. I gave myself life, and along with everything that I've done. And so I fought. It was like that moment where you learn to appreciate yourself, your kids, the moments. Because at that time, I didn't know if I was get those moments. When they would say, next Christmas we going on vacation, I was nervous because I thought I wouldn't be here. I could never enjoy the fun, like, oh, we're going on vacation. I couldn't enjoy it because I was
Planning
afraid.
the future was.
I was afraid.
Yeah.
Because I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm seeing my kids excited, and I'm like, the sad part is if I'm not here, how would that make them feel? And so I lived like that for a year, for a long time. And then I got my scan done, and the doctor was like, look, we got to come in. He said, it's going to be the worst surgery you probably ever experienced. And I said, okay. And we went in, and when I woke up, he said, I had 5 doctors prepared to help me. He said, but we went in and didn't see anything. He said, we was looking. He said, we looked everywhere. He said, and it was 3 months from the time they told me.
God is so.
He said, so I don't know what you're doing. He said, the chemo treatment, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
He said, but for me, to me, you're cancer free.
Oh.
He said, but I think you still need chemo. And I remember saying, okay, but of course I was out of it. And but I just remember after I got home, I remember saying to myself, okay, I figured out now. I am in control of my own destiny.
Yeah.
You have to have a strong mind. You have to believe and trust. And every scan since that point has been negative. And here I am still today, 2024. I'm still in treatment, but the treatment is only 2 hours long. It's like every 6 weeks. I'm not sick. Now I'm teaching my kids how to eat healthy. I'm teaching my kids how to maintain their health. I teach my kids how to pray. Even it's not a preacher prayer. I don't care. Just say something.
Yeah.
And that way they can get, because I'm
talk
afraid.
to God, make a connection.
There you go. Because if they ever fall short and I'm not here,
they need a source.
I need them to know that, hey, this is how you do it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for sharing that. It's not always easy, but you did it with so much courage, and it's needed to hear stuff like this for many people. For me, I personally needed to hear that. I was on your children's side of it, so I told you like my dad passed when I was younger, when I right a week shy of my 12th birthday.
Oh wow.
He had liver cancer. Same cancer, same thing, benign tumor that had probably been there since he was really young, and he was a doctor, and so it's very ironic, but unfortunately he didn't get the story that you have, and it's wonderful to have someone survive that story so that they can share it, because
I share with the kids at school. I share it at school with the kids, so all the kids know that I have cancer. All the kids know I have treatments.
Yeah.
And I at first the principal was like, they was like, you told the kids? In my mind, this is what I was thinking. I said, okay, in order for these kids to know that this life they live is real.
Yeah.
They need to hear it from somebody, because I want them to know that this life that at this age is not gonna always be this way. So they see that I go to treatment, they can tell that I'm sick.
Yeah.
They handle it with grace. They listen to me on the days I have treatment. They listen to me. That's the weirdest thing. And they also know they ask me how I'm doing. Kids have mothers and fathers that have cancer.
Wow.
That died of cancer, so I can relate to that as well. So then it put me in not only a teacher role, a friend role, but then someone may know that, hey, I'm normal. I'm just not only a teacher.
Yeah, you're
a
human being. Yeah, trying to make it through life too.
There you go. Yeah. So they know, I always tell them, hey, I'm trying to survive like y'all survive, and they laugh.
Yeah.
But it's the truth, And so I tell the kids at school too, so they aware.
So I mean, you went through so much that most people would have just sat in. I mean, like, they would have just sat in it and just stayed there. But you propelled yourself through it so that you could be here to this day. So what was your next step? I mean, you're still obviously still going through the treatments, but from not working and just building things with your hands and that being your purpose every day, what was your next step kind of getting back into a field outside of your own home?
Well, I'm not, like I said, I'm a person to do things.
Yeah.
Because I had to find something to do. And so once I sat with the doctor, and the doctors was like, hey, look, since everything's going well, we're going to reduce the treatments, and so give you a break. And so once we did the once every 3 weeks, I was a bit sick. So I was like, okay, now let me see what I can do. So I had a friend who came and said, hey, I think you'd be a good teacher.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I'm good. You know, and I said, no, the kids, I'm good. So she said, no, I think you need to give it a shot. You know, they're hiring for substitute, and at least.
That's how they got me.
Right.
That's how they said $100 a day for a sub, girl. You better show up.
And she was like, well, look, you know, if you do sub, at least if you have something to do, you can do it.
Yeah.
It was like, you know, you work at your own pace thing. And I said, you know, she said, at least get you at the house.
Yeah.
And so it was like, yeah, I can get at the house. And so I started substituting. And I think I went in and gave it a shot, you know. But prior to that, you know, I substituted. I substituted. I think it was 2018. That kind of gave me the idea, you know, of what school was like.
Yeah.
But I think after the cancer treatment, learning the stress part that made it difficult to make that decision, because the doctor was saying stress.
Yeah, stress is the #1 killer in America, and people will say it's heart disease, it's this, it's that. What led to that is the stress. Yeah.
And so he told me to try to refrain from things.
Yeah, that caused stress.
Teaching.
Ooh.
And when so that's why when she brought that up, I was like, no way, because I'm thinking of stress. And when I did substitution, it was a little stressful because the kids didn't know me.
Yeah.
So that means they tried me. That means they didn't listen to me, and I found myself trying to redirect them all the time. It's like I feel my blood pressure getting up. I'm like, look, kids, listen to me. But you know, once I went home, I took that home with me, and I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna let these kids get the best of me. I'm going back tomorrow. And so it was one of those things. It was a challenge, and I think from the time beginning of working the 2 jobs, it was a challenge of trying to stay afloat. You know, go join the military knowing I was deployed, leave my family. That was a challenge to at least get get ourselves out of that position into a better, you know, life. And then, you know, in working for the state and teaching was all a challenge. Yeah. It was a challenge because I knew that I could do it. I knew that these kids were not that. I just need to find find a way, find a niche, just find a way to get to that. Yeah. And so when I substituted, I did it for a while, and once they made me a long-term sub, the principal was like, "Look, we can use you. Yeah. You know, I think we can use you long-term. I think you'd be a good teacher." And I was like, "Nah." I think the substitute works, and I
always fight against it. Look,
you know,
me too. I understand.
Right. But I was like, nah, I think the substitute works, because I was like, if I get tired, I can just go home. And I told her, I said, well, look, I said, because she didn't know. I mean, she's a friend. Yeah. I said, look, I said, just to let you know, I said, I did have cancer, and so I was telling her the story. And I said, I don't think I would be a good fit for this. I said, because when I need to be out, I have to be out. Yeah. Which put the teachers at limbo. And she was like, look, let me figure it out. Yeah. And so I said, okay. And so I got the job as a substitute, as a social studies teacher. Yeah. And the staff have been nothing but awesome. Like when I need something, if I have to go to treatment, get blood, anything, they understand. They allow me to do it, and I come back to work. And I go to treatments and come back to work, which is very difficult because I just want to lay down.
Right, you're tired.
But honestly, when I come to work, I don't feel tired because those kids don't allow me to be tired.
They give you the energy.
They give me the energy
to keep going.
Although I don't have the fire, But because I still have to give direction, teach something, the whole conversations, it keeps me engaged. It keeps me, it don't allow me to lay down.
Right.
It don't allow me to feel sick. So I go back to work, and the staff, the principal, they allow me to do that.
Yeah.
You know, because they always recommend, hey, do you need to go home? I'm like, no, I'm all right.
Yeah.
I'll stay.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It sounds like your journey has been, just so many different paths, but what really brought each path and connected them together was your heart for service and a higher calling and a purpose that you recognize was on your life, because there can be a purpose and a calling on your life, but to make that connection and recognize it and to use it every day to propel you forward.
Right.
Not everyone gets that, and you got it, and you're able to share it with us today, so I really appreciate that. So, this interview has been amazing for me, and I know for all the people who are going to watch this, they're going to learn so much. But if there's one thing that you would want someone who watches this to take away from this interview, what would that thing be?
If I had one thing based on what I've endured, I would say always maintain a purpose. I think purpose is the reason why I'm still here. And I think a lot of times when we see the elderly, when they lose purpose, or like when you move the elderly from one place to another, they pass away. Once, I'm a firm believer that when you have a purpose, you live longer, because you start making decisions based on that purpose. Everything falls into that purpose. And I think when, I'm gonna be working with the kids, I always, when I do something great and the kid succeeds, or I make a phone call home for a student and the student gets to go somewhere, I always say, God, thank you for allowing me to be here today to be able to do this for this child. Because had I not been here, that child path would not have been that way. And a lot of things I touch from that point on to now altered somebody's life. It could be a conversation. It can be me meeting with you today. So I would say purpose, and don't give up on that purpose, because during that time when they was telling me to prepare myself and get my affairs in order, I cried every day. I never did it in front of my kids. I never did it in front of my wife. I maintained, my figure, but I cried every day, and it was dark. And I think I got to a point where I told myself if this was going to be it. And it was, like I said, it was to that day I sat down and it was like something said, because I grew up in church, and something just said, not today.
Ooh.
Like something like, not today.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to myself, nobody was home, I'm saying, not on my watch, I refuse. And I remember getting up off the couch. I remember walking around the house, I started doing things. I had to change my whole mindset.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about all the things I had to do, the purpose, like my kids in school, my daughter who's in college.
Yeah.
I paid for college. She might have been, she was still with college off of insurance, but me being there for her to call me, me helping her with assignments, me being that person she can call. Now she's a senior in college, and it was like I had so much left. So I had multiple purposes that led me to, when I would get up in the morning, I knew I had a goal, I had something to do. And so my prayer was always that I said this since I was young, that I always want to live long enough to ensure that my kids can function in this world. And my kids, I always tell my kids that this is not our final resting place. This is temporary. However, because we live here, you still have to know how to master this until you get to that point. And so I always pray that I live long enough. And so that's where that dark part, I was like, I got so much work to do, my kids ain't ready. And that was that driven purpose. So when I see them every day, when they look at me, I just knew, okay, I had to stay around.
Yeah, that's why you keep going.
Keep going, right? So
Yeah.
purpose, if you have a purpose, just stick with your purpose.
That was beautiful, and I don't think we could end it any better than that. I think it's wonderful for people to hear about that dark place, because that not today voice is the reason I'm sitting with you here today.
Okay.
I heard that not today when I wrote that affirmation.
Oh,
so
wow.
I want to leave with that affirmation and remind you that you are the triumph that rose from the challenge, and you are not the defeats. Thank you so much for being here
You're welcome.
with us
Thank
today.
you for having me.